Well, every day at the end of Local 4 News First at 4, you see me throw to this lady. Inside Edition is celebrating 25 years on the air, and Deborah Norville has been the anchor for nearly 20 of those years. You know, when you watch someone on TV every day, it's pretty easy to feel like you know them. But there's much more to Deborah Norville than what you see on the screen. If you had asked a teenaged Deborah Norville what she wanted to be, she would have answered quickly, lawyer.
Television was nowhere on my radar screen. I was a senior in high school in Dalton, Georgia, where there's absolutely nothing to do. And one day the announcement came on, the morning announcements. They said any senior girl who wants to cut fifth period may do so if they'd like to go to the auditorium to hear what the JCs have to say about Junior Miss. I didn't know what Junior Miss was, but I knew what fifth period was, so I was out of there. I won the local, I won the state, which meant I had to go to the national, which was televised by CBS. And I saw the guys who were rigging the lights and putting the cameras together and building the stage sets, and they were working like dogs, but they were just as friendly at the end of the day as they were at the beginning. I thought, whoa, this TV thing looks really fun.
Deborah started as a reporter in Atlanta. She worked her way to Chicago and then to the network in New York, becoming co-host of The Today Show at 31 years of age.
When I started, pre-Google, pre-internet, pre-cell phone, there was no way to cheat. You either knew it or you didn't know it. And honestly, I think that's what attributed to my fast rise in the business. I have this ridiculous ability to retain what appears to be useless information until that moment when you're doing a live shot and you happen to remember that the NTSB had announced that the reason the Aloha Airlines 700 series jet had lost the top of it was because the repeated pressurizations had caused minute cracks in the fuselage, which was a useful piece of information when I got thrown into the news desk at NBC when a United Airlines jet that had taken off from Honolulu bound for New Zealand had a similar thing happen. When you remember those kinds of useless facts at the right moment, people think, oh, kid's smart.
Smart and crafty, literally. Back in Deborah's pageant days, her talent was sewing.
I've been sewing my own clothes since I was 9 years old, and it has always been a passion of mine. I knit for therapy. I sew mostly because I'm cheap, but I also sew because it makes me feel really good. If I had made those drapes over there, I would look at those and go, wow, those look great. And it would enhance my sense of self and build my own self-confidence. So I can absolutely draw a direct line from my crafting or my sewing or my woodworking. I made the headboard to my bed in my bedroom, to my own sense of competence and ability. When I was on the Today Show, the media people would do the interviews and say, what do you enjoy for your hobbies? And I said, I love to sew. I knit and crochet all the time. Cross stitch is the bomb. Needlepoint is really cool. And I'd tell them what I was working on, and the PR lady's going, stop, stop. It's so not journalistic, you know, it's so, you tell them you read Tolstoy. And I'm like, nobody reads Tolstoy. Tell them I read Tolstoy. I read Tolstoy. That's stupid. I guess they wanted me to seem more journalistic, you say in a deep voice. And I think you can be journalistic and still sew.
Deborah left the Today Show when she had her first child.
I do sometimes wonder if I hadn't left the network, what path would my career have taken? But when I ask that question, I also say to myself, but look at what a great ride I've had, and look at what awesome kids I've got.
Her career hiatus didn't last long. Deborah was soon back in front of a camera, eventually on the Inside Edition set.
The process begins in the morning with a morning meeting. It's very typical, probably the way your newsroom operates. I use the analogy, Inside Edition is like a local newsroom with a national agenda. And honestly, it's like any other newsroom. It's subject to the whim of the decision makers. I am not one of the decision makers. I have a vote, but I don't have a veto. I write everything I say, which means I have to wait for everybody to have at least got a thumbnail of their script done, and then I go jump into hair and makeup and kind of get transformed a little bit so I don't frighten the people, and then we do the show, and we're usually done by 5:30 or so. For me, for a working mom, it was a perfect place to be.
25 years on television is a rare feat for any show, and Deborah wrote a book to mark the anniversary and look back at memorable TV moments.
One of the only, if not the only, national interview with Jeffrey Dahmer was done by Inside Edition, and he very coldly and methodically and without any emotion talked about what it was like to kill someone and then cannibalize their body.
Do you still feel that compulsion, that obsession?
I wish I could say that it just left completely, but no, there are times when I still do have the old compulsions.
We've got one of the few jailhouse interviews with Sirhan Sirhan, the assassin of Robert Kennedy, who was incredibly remorseful in our interview and then did like a 180 and completely changed his tune and decided he was wrongly convicted.
Deborah has spun her love for the fiber arts into a second career as an entrepreneur, and her namesake yarns are in stores all across the country.
I made an Afghan for one of my sons, and I gave it to him for Christmas, and it was, of course, a big box. He opened that one first, and he opened it up, and he saw what it was. He went, "Whoa, Mom, that must have taken you forever." I said, "Yeah, honey, it took me a long time. But you need to know, I thought of you every moment this was in my hands. And years from now, if Mommy's not around, because my mom died when I was 20, Mom's not around, and you put that blanket around you, that's me hugging you. And even years from now, when you've got kids, and those kids wrap up in that blanket, that's Grandma giving them a hug." And my other son, who's not terribly emotional, looked at that and went, "Whoa, Mom, that's really cool. Can I have one too?" So now everybody's got a mommy blanket. My advice to anybody, whether it's in media or any other field, because it really goes, it speaks to who you are as an individual. You want to always be regarded as the smartest one in the group. You want to know more, you want to be able to do more, you want to be more familiar with things, so you want to be known as the smart kid. And that goes whether you're working at a television station or you're working at a bank. You be the smart one. Be regarded as the person who's not afraid of hard work. Be regarded as the person who doesn't have an attitude. Be regarded as the person who, whatever it is they have to do, they do it well and they do it with a smile. And my other advice would be, don't get a boring job. If you're in a job and you're bored, what the hell are you doing there? Get out.
All right, very good advice to try to make your life's work something you are passionate about. And of course, you can watch Inside Edition every weekday at 4:30, right after Local 4 News First at 4. Now, coming up, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for aspiring young actors. They're doing a play that was originally performed by children in a Nazi concentration camp. And someone very special is in the audience. Paula Tutman has the inspiring story next.